ink fades, stone crumbles. But a photograph is a memory that refuses to die. We think we know the narrative. We trust the timeline. But what if the most important chapter was never meant to be found? What if it was hidden in plain sight, captured in an object so impossible it was dismissed before it was ever truly seen? This is the story of a photograph that appears to defy the laws of science and history. A single image, allegedly lost for over a century, that suggests a secret presidential network, a technology decades ahead of its time, and a silent guardian who may have stood at the epicenter of America's greatest crisis. What you are about to see will challenge everything you thought you knew about the final days of the Civil War. It began, as these stories often do, with a forgotten object in a quiet place. For Claire Donovan, it was just another Saturday spent clearing out her family's ancestral home. In the attic, under decades of dust, sat a heavy leather trunk. The brass latch, green with age, gave way with a tired groan. Inside was a lifetime of memories, none of them hers. But then her fingers brushed against something hard and unfamiliar, a photo album, its spine cracked, its corners curled like autumn leaves. Most of the images were what you'd expect, stiff, sepia-toned portraits of ancestors staring out from the 1800s, all except one. Tucked in the back was a photograph unlike any other. There, in haunting clarity, appeared to be Abraham Lincoln. He stood beside what looked like General Ulysses S. Grant and General George Meade at Appomattox, on what could be the very day of Lee's surrender. The composition was historic, a moment frozen in time. But it wasn't the famous faces that made Claire's breath catch in her throat. It was the color. Not hand tinting, not a later painted edition. The color appeared to be part of the image itself, a vibrant, living spectrum of light and shadow. It looked like a modern photograph disguised as a 19th century artifact. But there was one glaring problem. Color photography was chemically and technologically impossible in 1865. Or was it? Knowing she had found something extraordinary, Claire took it to the one person she could trust, Professor George Kramer, a leading expert in Civil War photography. His reaction was immediate skepticism. "It's a clever fake, Claire," he said, adjusting his glasses. "A very expensive fake." But his hands were already reaching for his equipment. His voice betrayed his curiosity when he added, "Let me run a few tests, just to be certain." Kramer recognized the paper stock instantly. An albumin silver print, standard for the 1860s. But albumin prints are monochrome. They are physically incapable of holding modern chromogenic dyes. He immediately arranged for an analysis at the New York Historical Society, where a team of specialists gathered to confront the impossible. Under the unblinking eye of forensic technology, the photo gave up its first secret. Elsa, the lab's forensic imaging specialist, delivered the unexpected findings. "The pigments aren't applied post-print," she explained. "They appear to be chemically bonded within the photographic emulsion itself. The closest match we found was a modification of the holotype process, an experimental color photography technique from the 1850s, but stabilized with what looks like a mercury chloride variation that shouldn't have been documented until the 1930s. Levi Hill, a Baptist minister and photographer, claimed to have invented color photography in 1851. His process was dismissed as a fraud, his formulas lost to history. But what if they weren't lost? What if someone perfected what Hill could only dream of? But while the scientists debated chemistry, Claire's attention was drawn to something else. Not the impossible color, but the impossible man. Standing between Lincoln and Grant was a figure who didn't belong. He wore a Union uniform, but it bore no standard insignia. His expression was calm, watchful. He wasn't posing for history. He seemed to be observing it. Then, a jolt of recognition. Claire had seen that face before, in a faded family photograph taken nearly 50 years later. It appeared to be her great-great-grandfather, William Donovan. She recalled the fragmented family story. "My grandfather said he served in the war," she remembered, "but he disappeared. The family story was that he was listed as missing in action and never came home." A quick search of Civil War archives seemed to confirm it. Private William Donovan, Medic, 104th New York Infantry. Status: missing in action. Last seen, April 6, 1865. The timeline made no sense. How could a man who vanished on April 6th be standing next to President Lincoln 3 days later at Appomattox? The mystery of the photograph was no longer just about technology. It was about a man erased from the record books. Professor Kramer, now obsessed, dug into the deepest, most obscure corners of the War Department archives. Late that night, he claimed to have found it. A single, cryptic line in what he described as a declassified field memo from April 1865. W.D. moved to Shadow Post per A.L.'s request, not to be logged. W.D. William Donovan, A.L. Abraham Lincoln. The note, if genuine, suggested the unthinkable. That in the final, volatile days of the war, Lincoln may have activated a secret, off-the-books intelligence unit, a network of shadows who answered only to him. Could this be connected to Allan Pinkerton's detective agency, which Lincoln used extensively during the war, or something even more clandestine? The potential proof was stitched into the very fabric of Donovan's coat. Hidden under the fold of his lapel, barely visible to the naked eye, was a tiny, meticulously sewn patch. The letters were faint, but appeared to read, PC. Professor Kramer stared at the screen, the pieces seemingly clicking into place. Presidential Escort Committee, he murmured. It was a myth, a rumor whispered in the diaries of Lincoln's aides, a group of loyalists, operating outside the chain of command, allegedly tasked with protecting the president when he no longer trusted everyone in his own government. William Donovan wasn't missing. He may have been reassigned, his identity scrubbed, and placed at the president's side. But as Elsa continued to analyze the uniform, she found something else, something that turned the mystery cold. Hidden on the reverse side of the PC, insignia was a second, more chilling message, revealed only under ultraviolet light, written in what appeared to be iron gall ink mixed with lemon juice, a common invisible ink of the era. 4 words that could reframe American history. Plot confirmed. Stand until the 14th. April 14th, 1865. The night John Wilkes Booth entered Ford's Theater. The date of Lincoln's assassination. The message, if authentic, wasn't a patrol order. It was a warning. William Donovan wasn't just a guard. He may have been part of a covert operation that knew a threat was imminent. He was allegedly assigned to watch, to stand ready, until that fateful day. Suddenly, his disappearance from the records wasn't a clerical error. It could have been a cover-up. Was he silenced before he could act? Or did he live out his life with the terrible knowledge of what he couldn't prevent? Claire remembered a line from an old family letter her grandfather had shown her, allegedly written by William decades after the war. If ever you find the photograph with the chair, burn it. It wasn't a request. It was a desperate plea. The photo wasn't just a memento. It could have been proof of a terrible burden. There was one final piece to the puzzle. Tucked into the album's lining, Claire found a fragile, folded envelope. On it, a single name, to William. Inside was a letter. The ink was faded, but the handwriting appeared deliberate, elegant. At the bottom, a simple signature that could be interpreted as A.L. It read, "My dearest William, this war has taught us that the truth is often a casualty, seldom sought by those who need it most. You were chosen not to draw a sword, but to stand, visible, among those who do. Stand where they do not expect you. Watch who you must, and if history forgets you, allow it to. I will not." It appeared to be a final directive from a president who knew the fragility of peace and the treachery of men. If genuine, Lincoln hadn't just commissioned a photograph. He had created a time capsule. He may have used an impossible technology to ensure one image would survive the erosion of time, carrying a secret he entrusted to a man he knew history would forget. William Donovan's role, it seems, wasn't to be a hero. It was to be a silent witness, a ghost. Today, the photograph and its story are shared with the world. It doesn't rewrite the outcome of those tragic days in April 1865, but it suggests hidden layers of caution, conspiracy, and courage that may have surrounded one of history's most pivotal moments. It gives a name to what could be a forgotten guardian, and a voice to what might have been a president's final, silent order. A single photo found in a dusty attic, a man possibly erased from history, and a message that may have waited over 150 years to be read. It reminds us that the past is never truly settled. Sometimes, it's just waiting for the right light to be seen. What would you do? If you found something that challenged everything you knew about history, would you share it with the world, or would you protect the secret? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And for more dives into mysteries that were never meant to be solved, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell for our next investigation.